I mentioned in the open, I think this edge class is pretty loaded. I mean, I have currently in my top 150, I have 6 edge rushers in the top 22, 5 in the top 13. I think this is a deep class. We're going to talk about I'm going to say we're going to talk about at least 7 different guys tonight, if I had to guess. So we'll start at the top. I know our number ones are going to be different here because you have injury concerns with him. I'm not going to factor that into my evaluation. I'm just going to factor in what I've seen on the field the last 2 years. I think Latu is the top edge rusher in this class based off skill set, production, just everything else that I've seen so far to date tells me he's the top edge in this class.
I've made the move as well. I've put him number 1 edge in this class last week. I think he's just a little bit bigger, stronger, more consistent than the other top edges in this class. So I'm with you. I think Latu, as long as the medical checks out, I think he can be a top 10 pick.
So that brings us to number 2 here. We should preface this, by the way, that these are the top 5 edges that we expect to enter the NFL draft. And now that these guys can go to all-star games, that we might actually get some other guys in here now that maybe wouldn't have, or definitely will have a chance to play in those all-star games. Number 2 on this list for me is still, although I'm teetering, Florida State's Jared Verse. I don't think he's had the season this year that he had was having last year production-wise, but you still see the ability in the run game as well as the passing game to take over a game, if you will, at times. So I still like Verse here, but I'm not opposed to moving him up or down, or moving him down a little bit if need be.
Yeah, he's Jared Verse still my number 2 as well. He's had dominant games this year. He's really had 2 games Virginia Tech and Wake Forest, that I was like, all right, this is the guy that we were waiting for. And then the next week's kind of a dud, or he's not doing much. And teams are definitely keying in on him. If you watch the game against Pitt, for example, I mean they were running back was chipping him, was ready for Jared Verse every single play. Like, he has to get through 2 players in most cases to get any type of penetration. I think he's still playing well. Is he got to be the second edge taken in the draft? I don't know, but I think I feel more comfortable that Jared Verse is going to have a pretty long career in the NFL, maybe compared to some of the upside players that we're going to talk about next.
Number 3 on my board is a guy who I think maybe ends up at the Senior Bowl now, as opposed to not, and it could be a nice box office get for them down here. Dallas Turner from Alabama is my number 3 edge rusher. Another guy who, like not unlike Jared Verse, who has flashed dominance at times this season and taken over games. He had the flashes last year as well when he had Will Anderson on the opposite side of him. This year it's been kind of him and Chris Braswell, who we may or may not end up talking about later. I don't know yet. But I think Turner, like I said, he's 6'4", 245, so maybe he's a bit on the lighter side. We'll see how that maybe goes up or down as we go through the process. But Turner, like I said, has flash dominance. Did get that what I thought was a fairly dirty hit against Jaden Daniels this past week. Probably should have been thrown out of the game for targeting, but I don't make those calls.
He's my number 3 as well. I think Dallas Turner is exceptional, 5-star recruit, top tier athlete. He gets to the quarterback like almost every game. He's back there. He's making plays. I don't think he'll be at the Senior Bowl. Sorry, Brian. I don't think that'll happen. I think the upside is higher than Jared Verse. I think Dallas Turner could be, a top 5 edge rusher in the NFL, right? He has that potential. I think he also could flame out at that size if he can't get off blocks, and that's going to be the big question.
I'm gonna be honest, Shane. I thought we would have
lockstep. So I think we'll start veering off here, maybe, but we'll see.
Maybe. Number 4 to me is your guy, your Buckeye here, JT Tuimoloau. I've seen enough. I think he's probably the most scheme diverse of all of these edge rushers where I think he could make that third down living inside at the NFL level and those sub packages, those pass rush packages where they, move those guys around. He sets the edge great in the run game. And he showed against Olu Fashanu a few weeks ago what he plays the top competition. He can take over that at times. And that's the kind of games where you see him show up and he shows out. Does he disappear at times? A little bit, right?
Yeah, I like him a lot. I think he's very inconsistent, and so I don't have him in my top 5. I'm kind of on the line if he declares or not, as it is. So for Tuimoloau, like there are times you watch him, you're like, man, this guy is big and he's fast and he can push anyone around, and then there are times he kind of gets swallowed up. So it's a tough sell for me, and that's the problem with edge rushers, right? Is really, if you're great for 7 plays, that can be enough to make it.
Could be enough, yeah.
And I think Tuimoloau can do that, but he's also has these long stretches of nothing, of bad decisions, even against the run, or that kind of get me and have me drop him down. Once again, high risk, high reward, kind of like Dallas Turner is.
Where's he currently at on your board?
He's 6th on my board. Okay.
So just outside. Who's number 4 then?
For number 4 for me, a player I consider not including. It could go back to school, but because of the injury this year, but I'm going Chop Robinson from Penn State. I think he ends up declaring. It seems like things are swinging back in his direction. Chop Robinson spent a year at Maryland, transferred to Penn State. Really big fan of his last season, where I thought Robinson looked like the best Penn State defender on the field for a lot of those games last season. And so we've seen him not play here the past 2 games due to injury, but had been dominant in the run game up until now, and that's what I really like. He can set the edge, run down running backs, go into the outside, does well with that. Really good about reading the offense. Plus, you have the top-tier athleticism and pass rush ability. I think Robinson should be a first-round pick if he declares and all the medical works out.
He's 6th on my board and 22nd overall. So yeah, I'm with you. I think he's a great player. Just outside of my top 5. Number 5 for me, wrap up this list, is another guy who I think has that run-setting power and not the most aggressive in the pass rush, but to make plays. I mean, he's very, very good at it. Don't get me wrong. And it's Bralen Trice from Washington, my number 5 guy. He's a productive player for sure. One of the leading sack guys on their team, along with ZTF. So baited with him and Chop Robinson and Chris Braswell a lot, who I like here at number 5. But I ended up settling on Trice.
I think I've had Trice at like 3 and felt good, and I have at 7 right now. And I'm like, okay, yeah, that can make sense too. Like you said, not flashy, is good at what he does. I think he's a player you had in your Senior Bowl predictions. If he goes to the Senior Bowl, I have a feeling he's going to be in my top 5. Like he's going to do really well down there. And I think we're going to really see, here's the potential that Bralen Trice has. It's a lot of you take that game against Oregon, they threw the ball so quickly. It was just tough for him to get any traction. And so I think that will help. My number 5, you mentioned, it is Chris Braswell, the edge rusher from Alabama. I have him. I think in many ways he's played better than Dallas Turner this season, especially with how Alabama utilizes Braswell. He's not just a pin your ears back pass rush type of player. They'll drop him into coverage. He'll go up to the line, look like he's going to rush and sit in a soft zone and make an interception or play the run. The instincts are just out of this world with Chris Braswell. Another guy that's on the lighter side, but I think very versatile. I'd love to see in a 3-4 defense that uses those outside backers in numerous roles.
I like Braswell as well. He's currently 7 on my board. Roundabout talked about the top 7 players on each of our boards. So there you go. 2 more guys I want to talk about that I think have a chance to go higher than maybe anybody are predicting right now. Let's get your thoughts quickly on Florida's Princely Umanmielen and Penn State's Adiza Isaac.
Yeah, those are the next two on my board as well. I mean, I think Adisa Isaac has played extremely well. I really liked him coming out of high school as well, and just never quite put it together. And this year he's putting it together from a pass rush perspective, very clean in terms of how he uses his hands and his feet. And then Umanmielen is wild. I mean, he's a fun watch if you haven't watched Florida, because I mean there are times when he's out of position and like I don't know what he's doing. He's taking bad angles, and then you take a game like against Arkansas, and he's, I mean, so quick off the edge. I think both those guys are solid top 50 type picks.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, both of those guys, by the time the process is over, could have played themselves into the first round conversation, or they're going to be solid early day two guys. But so quickly recap here: the top 5 edge rushers for myself are UCLA's Laiatu Latu, Florida State's Jared Verse, Dallas Turner from Alabama, JT Tuimoloau, Ohio State, and Braylon Trice from Washington. For Shane, it is UCLA's Laiatu Latu, Florida State's Jarrett Verse, Dallas Turner at 3, Chop Robinson from Penn State at 4, and Chris Braswell from Alabama at 5. But yeah, you agree that this is a pretty loaded edge class throughout?
Yeah, it continues to be just a high importance for college teams, high importance for NFL teams. I think we're gonna have good edge classes moving forward for a while.